Receiving of a heart that now loved God and recognizing I was a different person. Let me just say this in closing. I was talking to two different rabbis recent months. I said to one of them, I think you know me decently by now. I said, no, I think I know you very well. I said, okay. I said, what do you think of me? Now, don't get scandalized by my question, because I was asking this for a reason. I said, what do you think of me? He said, well, I think you're extraordinary. I said, okay. As far as some of my scholarly background in spiritual ministry or Jewish apologetics, yeah, I'm a little unusual like that. I said, but do you mean my character, who I am? He said, yeah. I said, listen. I said, I may specialize in some of these studies and have some unique academic background that goes along with spiritual ministry. I said, but as far as my character, I said, I'm a dime a dozen. I could introduce you to person after person after person after person that loves Jesus, that's godlier than me, that walks closer to the Lord than me, that has more godly character, or the same as me. I said, I'm one of many. I said, that's the power of Messiah's blood. I was talking to another friend, and he was asking me, another rabbi, about when I get attacked or people come against me or in hot situations, if sometimes I get angry. I said, well, I really feel bad for them. And we were talking about it more, and I said, well, I don't have an angry button to push. Oh, yeah, I mean, friends, family, day-to-day situations, I'm like everybody else. I have to exercise self-control and discipline. But I was just saying, yeah, when I'm attacked and under pressure and there's hostility towards me and slander and misunderstanding and I'm misrepresented and hated, I said, no, I said, it's not like I have to restrain myself. I said, I don't have a hate button to push. I don't hate anybody. It doesn't occur to me to hate anybody. It's never dawned on me for years and years and years to hate anybody. I don't have to fight it. It doesn't occur to me any more than it occurs to me to drive away Martian, impersonators of Elvis Presley before I preach. I mean, it's just not a reality. So he began to talk to me about, well, I guess that's how you've always been. I said, listen, before I was a believer in Jesus, I had such a fierce temper. I used to become such another person that my friends in our drug days, they nicknamed me Crag the Evil Genie. We used to hallucinate a lot and think in weird ways. But I said, I was known for this horrific, angry, vicious temper. I'd slice people up with my tongue and just was filled with venom. I'd turn against my best friends. I said, listen, the reason I'm like this today is because of Jesus. You understand? This is not some great accomplishment of Mike Brown. This is the life-transforming power of Yeshua's blood. We have something to boast about. We have something to celebrate. We have a very seriously scriptural message, and wonderfully enough, one with many great parallels and insights here in the rabbinic tradition, rightly understanding these traditions. The atoning power of the death of the righteous. We have the one message to preach that can bring transformation. We're going to break here, and then we will begin to discuss the issue of the nature of God. We're now going to pick up with another major theological issue, namely the nature of God. God's oneness, God's unity, God's essential being. The issue of sin and atonement is big because it affects how we relate to God and the whole issue of do we need Messiah's blood or not. The Messianic prophecies have their importance. Do the Hebrew Scriptures point towards, predict, foreshadow, prophesy the coming of the Messiah that we identify as Jesus? The issue of the nature of God is in certain ways a more emotional issue because Jews through the centuries have chosen death rather than deny God's unity. When faced with what they understood to be conversion to an alien faith, and many times through the centuries, especially in the Middle Ages, what they were presented was an alien faith, something that you and I would not follow or adhere to either. The tradition of martyrdom rather than conversion became well known among the people. We would die rather than deny God's unity. When religious Jews pray on a daily basis and recite the words of the Shema from Deuteronomy 6, as understood in traditional Judaism, hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. As those words are said, the eyes will be covered and The teaching is that there must be intense concentration on the unity and oneness of God. There are other Jewish traditions that just emphasize how a Jew during his waking hours must concentrate on the fact of God's oneness. If, in fact, our beliefs teach that there is somehow a threefold God instead of one God, if they violate the testimony of the Scriptures, if they violate what God spoke at Mount Sinai and the way he revealed himself at Mount Sinai, then this is another form of polytheism or idolatry. If we are making a man into a god or a god into a man, if we are attributing divine nature to an earthly creation, then that would be the worst form of idolatry. So there's the emotional pull. Are you going to believe something that your ancestors died rather than believe? They died for their faith rather than believe what you hold to? And how can you be guilty of idolatrous worship? This brings you under God's judgment. The question again is, what do the Scriptures say? When I began to address this point in volume 2 of Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus, I determined not to start with later Christian thinking that clarified and systematized what we would refer to as the doctrine of the Trinity. I thought the fairest thing for me to do is to begin with the Scriptures, the Hebrew Bible, and read my way out afresh, and ask questions afresh, and draw conclusions afresh, and then see what the New Covenant Scriptures actually said. Now, I find it interesting that some anti-missionaries teach that according to the New Testament, Yeshua is not divine and God is not triune. And according to the earliest Christian teaching, God is not triune. So it's kind of comical to me that we're told that actually the New Testament doesn't teach these things and the early church didn't teach these things. Well, all I want to follow is what's taught in the Scriptures, the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Covenant writings. So let's take a look and let's see what's actually taught. And I believe there are lots of misconceptions both ways. There can be Christian misconceptions, there can be Jewish misconceptions. Let's open up the Scriptures together. So we all agree that God was quite emphatic that he and he alone was to be worshiped. No other God could be worshiped. A Jew might say to a Christian, oh, but you worship Jesus, you're worshiping another God. The idea of there being a separation in the heart and mind of a follower of Jesus between worship of Jesus and worship of God, they couldn't even conceive of that. There'd be no way for them to get their minds around that because of their understanding that all worship of Jesus is worship of God. But how can we even speak of that? How can we even speak of worship of Jesus? Isn't that somehow idolatrous or blasphemous? Well, let's begin and state what we do know based on the Scripture. Then we're going to try to draw some conclusions based on that. We are called to worship one God and one God alone. So God gives the 10 Commandments, Exodus, the 20th chapter. Don't have any other gods before me. No graven images, no idols, no other gods. Let me read some of these verses to you. Exodus chapter 23, verse 24, is one of many places that reiterates the same truth. Exodus 23, 24, do not bow down before their gods, namely the gods of the Canaanites and the others, or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces.